Hello everyone, and welcome to the forum where your voice counts. My name is Siham, Awada, Jaafar, and I am the host of this wonderful show here at MEA. And today, for my very first guest, which I'm very honored to have, we have with us Mayor Dan Paletko of our great city of Dearborn Heights. Mayor, welcome to the forum.
Well, thank you, and it's a great honor to be the first, but this is fantastic.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do for the city of Dearborn Heights.
Well, thank you.
So, as mayor, tell us about your initiatives in Dearborn Heights and your way of making sure that Dearborn Heights is a welcoming place. I'm a resident of Dearborn Heights, so I know it is. So tell us your secret.
Well, I think the big thing is that the community used to be mostly made up of white Europeans. In the last 20, 25 years, it has greatly diversified, and I think it's become a better community, a community that I know I appreciate living in much more than I did as a young boy. And we've just had a great influx of Arab Americans, particularly Lebanese, who have made it Dearborn Heights their home, and we've been enriched by that. They brought their culture, their food, their professional talents, and they're offering it to the community, and it's made us a stronger community. But the intertwining of these different cultures and religious faiths and everything has been very positive, and we've done very well as a community. So I think almost anybody would be very welcome and feel like they can move into Dearborn Heights and know that they would be welcome.
Without a doubt, and I know that the city in itself is, as you said, very diverse, and just the experience of going through Dearborn Heights with the different, as you said, ethnic faiths, the different foods. So basically, it's almost like a one-stop shop kind of thing. Economically speaking, tell us about that. Tell us about the economic growth that we've seen sort of within the past years.
Yeah, it's been, as I indicated, that the Arab Americans in the community have brought and built some fantastic commerce buildings. So in the morning, you can get your traditional ham and eggs and stuff. At the same time, you could go right next door across the street and get some delicious baked goods from some of our great Arab American restaurants and bakeries. So that's there. Also, the homes that are being built in Dearborn Heights, they are different from what was in the city, but at the same time, they're very positive. I just had a gentleman who came in who was interviewing for a job application as a recreation director, and he said, before I came in here to interview, I was driving in those homes on Dockstader and on Avondale. I was really impressed. I didn't know you had homes like that in Dearborn Heights, and many of them are multi-million-dollar homes. But in addition, we never really had a downtown per se in Dearborn Heights. I believe Ford Road is becoming our downtown, and so it's just been enriched. You feel like you're almost not necessarily in the U.S., but you could very well be in the Middle East based upon El Amir and all these other restaurants that we have coming in and the bakeries, and it's just really a diverse. So you can, one day, I mean, we have sushi and Chinese, and so you could have that on Monday, and Tuesday go to the Arab American restaurants, and Wednesday go, if you want a coney dog, you can do that Wednesday, and so it's all in one place. And I believe that's becoming the downtown area. And the people who basically put the finances together to develop that Ford Road corridor has been our Lebanese part of the Arab Americans, and I can't thank them enough. It's very difficult all across America if you're an inner suburb, and I say that by being close to a major city. Those communities have a lot of stress, and what we've seen is we're not having the stress. We're actually a growth community, and a population of about 60,000 people, the 18th largest city in the state of Michigan, but it is prospering, and so it's brought jobs and opportunities, and the businesses are telling me they're doing very well. and
There's
it's a
lines
success.
everywhere, absolutely. You've got Lava Java, you've got Chinese, as you said, so it's sort of a one-stop place. So it's a very, very attractive place to live and a very safe place to live.
Yes,
and
it is.
I'm definitely a cheerleader for Dearborn Heights. We've lived there for so many years, and I know that you've been very, very, very effective in bringing communities together and creating that conversation as well, because when you do have different cultures together and you have different individuals, they all want the same thing, but they do it a little bit differently, and so creating that understanding and creating that bridge is vital. And I know that you have you have a Ramadan dinner every year too, which brings people together and really makes individuals feel like they're part of that landscape and part of the city. Again, diversity is important, not only in the city of Dearborn Heights, but I think nationally and internationally, and being able to understand other individuals. And I think I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about technology, and I think I say what I usually say about diversity. I said, you always fear what you don't understand, and technology and me are not friends at all. So I always fear that, and I always think, okay, I'm going to do something wrong. So not understanding other individuals, sometimes we create that fear in ourselves. We've been doing the diversity conference, the Images and Perceptions Diversity Conference, for the last 16 years, and as far as I can remember, you've been always supportive and always part of it, and always there participating. You're going to be also on the panel this year, which is on April 10th.
But it really is a special program, and kudos to you for what you put on, the people you get to speak.
Thank you.
It is a very, very great conference, and almost I will say at every one, you've had somebody who has touched everybody in the audience. You'll hear silence, sometimes crying, because people's hearts have been touched by some of the speakers and the stories and the things that they've talked about, because we are all in this together, and while we recognize that, not everybody does, and we need to break all those barriers and those walls, and this conference does it. But you've been a big part in helping my police department, and I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to get many Arab Americans on the force, and originally there were none, and out of a force of about just under 70 officers, I've now reached the level of 8 or 9, and I've got a couple women now, one of them a Native American. We have African American now on the force, and we wanted all the departments basically to be representative of the community. In fact, the recreation man I talked about that came in the interview is an Arab American, and I made him the offer, and so what I think is that it's important. Well, I have my former building and engineering director, Mohammed Sob, and I have Joe Hesham in CDBG. So this will now give me an additional one in the recreation area.
And that's wonderful. The most successful entities, and especially municipalities, are people that look like the people that they represent.
Exactly. You got to have the workforce. So when people come into City Hall, they should feel like they're looking at the same part of their ethnic group is shown as employment, and that's a big part. I wholeheartedly agree, and that's what we've always worked on to try to make. And it was difficult at the beginning because there was almost nobody, except that at that point, maybe 10 or 15% of our population were Arab Americans, but we had to change it.
Right. The demographics did change, and I think you changed with it, and you've made it representative of. And and I hope that other municipalities take the same lead and realize that, especially within the police force, it's so vital to ensure that that representation actually represents the communities that are being serviced, because you do have sort of that that disconnect, and it's really important to be able to have that connection and have that that understanding and communication process. We do a lot of diversity training for Wayne County Airport Authority, who is extremely not diverse, extremely not diverse. And the police chief, Daryl Johnson, who is African American, is an amazing individual, amazing, and he is really working on creating that that landscape where it is representative. But I always thought, the Wayne County Airport Authority, I mean, that is the most diverse place ever.
Yes.
So making sure that the representation is there is extremely vital, and he's worked very hard as well, like you, to ensure that that's happening. So within the conference, you're going to be sitting on the mayor's panel,
Yes.
and that discussion is going to be about maintaining harmony within different cities. So what would, and we're going to do a little prelude here, but what would be your advice in giving different individuals whose demographics are changing, not necessarily Arab Americans, but within the different ethnicities and different cultures, and the demographics are changing within the different cities. So what advice or what technique would you allow for a different individual or a different mayor within a different city to create that successful platform that we have in Dearborn Heights?
Well, one of the things, in fact, I just talked with a neighboring mayor, I try to keep important lines of communication. So for instance, I became, about 2 years ago, I was asked to be a guest speaker at the local Western Wayne County NAACP. Before I left the meeting,
I remember that.
I joined, and I felt very comfortable. They've been very accepting, but I received a lot of questions dealing with traffic tickets, how they were treated, and they felt at times that some of my officers maybe
singling them out.
Yeah, and so what I did was I offered to the officers that they could come and ride in one of my traffic cars individually and use a radar gun. And I told them that when the officers are using those radar guns, and we use handheld ones, that you can't always tell who's driving the vehicle because of what you need to do to calibrate. So and they took me up on it. And then but it was the communication.
Sure.
And
sure. And it was you taking their concerns seriously and saying, okay, there's an issue here, so let's get you involved in the solution.
Exactly. So they accepted that, got a better understanding, and I try to make every other meeting, we in the city of Dearborn Heights host a couple of their meetings at the library, provide the facility for free and anything they need, and so it's the communication. Well, I learned from that the group was very concerned about two incidents that had happened in the neighboring community, which I don't want to mention. So I called the mayor up the next day of that community, and I said, you have a problem. I don't know if you know it, but I was at the NAACP meeting last night, and this is becoming a real problem for you, and there are probably 2,000-3,000 people that are ready to start picketing City Hall and other things. And I said, some of the stories they told me, I think you have a problem there that you need to work on. So I think a first thing that a person has to do is make the approach to some of your minority groups and make the contact so people feel free to come in and tell you, and you also are understanding what the problems are before you have pickets out on City Hall.
Absolutely.
So that's number one. But the second thing is you have to, and it starts from the top, made it very clear that Dearborn Heights is going to be a welcoming community. So if you have problems with my leadership, maybe you ought to go to another community because certain things are not going to be tolerated. So that becomes a step two. And then the third thing that we worked, and these are all simultaneous, was to diversify the workforce, which when I first became mayor, there was no diversity. So I know that other elected officials will tell you, well, I got civil service, I have seniority and all this other stuff, and that is all recognized, but that doesn't mean you can't diversify. There are smart people of all different faiths, of all different color. You just have to go out there, and maybe you might even have to recruit a little harder. And we do competitive testing, so there was no priority given to anybody. And the fact is that we've been very successful, and some of my best officers are in that diversified group.
Absolutely. And I know that within our police department, it is the most qualified that are being hired, but it's getting those individuals to come in and actually apply for the positions.
I'm
so
proud when
it's a very competitive program.
When an Arab American scores highest on a test, last 2 tests, a woman has scored the highest, and so and so consequently, it's not like we're giving extra points or something. No, we're hiring the best, but we found that still is able to be done, and you still diversify your workforce.
Certainly, certainly. Well, Mayor, the conference is coming up on April 10th, and it's going to be at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center, and you're going to be on a panel with, I believe, Mayor Dane Slater from Troy, Mayor John O'Reilly from Dearborn, Mayor Karen Weaver from Flint, and
the Hamtramck
yes,
mayor, I think.
and Mayor Karen Majewski from Hamtramck. So we're really looking forward to an active conversation, and I know that you're going to share your views about the solid platform that we've been experiencing in Dearborn Heights, and I. You talked about the homes and the businesses and the economic, prosperity, and I believe that if people do not believe in the city that they're investing in those homes and investing in those businesses, that they would probably go elsewhere. So that speaks scores in regards to our city, in regards to our community and the cohesiveness of our community. And so we're very thankful that communication is always open, and that people are always welcome into City Hall. And if anybody has a problem, I know that your doors are always open, as well as the chief of police and the fire chief and all our directors. So it's about cohesiveness and understanding and accepting people and taking people seriously and listening to their concerns. And I thank you for always doing that.
Well, thank you also. What you do with this conference, which I think does a great positive for the Wayne County, southeastern Michigan, and the speakers you get and the people that you put together that come to the conference, education leaders, governmental leaders, leaders of industry, and we're all there sharing our thoughts and ideas. And then who is your super guest speaker?
Our keynote this year is really Brian Karam, who is actually Lebanese this year, so our keynote is Lebanese this year. And he's a journalist, he's a CNN analyst, and he's also the White House correspondent for Playboy. So he's not a Playboy himself, he's the journalist for them, but he has been very vocal in regards to what's happening with immigration, with what's happening, literally putting children in cages and separating them from their families. So and the pertinent things that are happening within our environment and within our country. So in regards to media and how that has been sort of highlighted as fake news, and how him and his colleagues are trying to combat that in a very positive, constructive way. So looking forward to his information. We also have a healthcare forum that Dr. Renee Kennedy Branch will be speaking at, and she's very, very, very highly regarded with Dr. Phil Levy. So hopefully we're going to be covering a lot of issues that we all are dealing with, and then that concept of how do we deal with our marginalized communities and our communities of color and our diverse communities, and what they have to deal with in terms of challenges with healthcare, with education, with living in different municipalities. So hopefully it'll be a great conversation.
It's going to be a great conference. I want to put a plug in. If you ever bring Reverend Wendell
Anthony,
I think all of us, there was, you could,
you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah, he just stunned us all. And I know that's part of it's the black preacher in him, but the way he conveyed his message, I don't think you'd do any better.
No. Dr. Wendell Anthony has done 3 of my conferences already. He actually drove out to Chicago and presented at my conference in Chicago and spoke. And he is just electrifying.
Well, he thinks
in his
the world
message.
of you, but
Well,
to have you
thank you.
bring him, that is, and that's what I'm saying, that these conferences, I got to meet movie stars and comedians.
Yes.
You put together a terrific program, and I can't compliment it enough. And if I was not even in any government service, I still want to come.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I really
It's the
appreciate
truth.
that. And I look forward to having you being an intricate part of it, as you have been the last 16
Well,
years.
thank
So I
you.
really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor of Dearborn Heights, Mayor Dan Paletko, doing the right thing and building bridges out there. And thank you so much for joining us on the forum where your voice counts.